Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Future of Creative Technology. Using art and technology to solve creative problems has always been at the heart of what we do at the Mill, and it's allowed us to step into new spaces and explore an evolving marketing landscape. This week, we want to share some of the ideas and technologies that are changing the ways we conceive of and produce work. We also want to give you a chance to meet the makers behind the creative work at the Mill, from developers and technologists to designers, artists, and special guests from some of our key brand partners. The last year has been a challenge, yes, but it's also been an opportunity to welcome new ways of working and communicating that we think will evolve the future of our industry for the better. For 3 decades, the Mill has been crafting the best creative solutions for brands, agencies, production companies, creatives, and people. Now, with an eye to the future, we're excited to show you what we're working on and delve into the creative possibilities ahead. Please enjoy the week.
Hello, my name is Reynolds. I'm a creative director at the Mill, primarily pitching and creating as part of the experience and innovation team. My background is in design and motion graphics, and in more recent years I've worked on a lot of XR projects, and from the bite size, social AR bits to the whoa, I've bitten off way more than I can chew size. But today I'm here to talk about just some bits and bobs of XR, and I'm not totally sure, who the audience is, who's going to be watching this, and what's of interest to the status quo. So I'm doing things probably a little differently to usual. I'm just going to try and just like hit some highlights about XR, which is a pretty broad topic. And in true 90s teen style, I'm stealing my presentation theme from the seminal film of 1999, 10 Things I Love About XR. So, number 1, XR is inherently dimensional. The medium lends itself to having 3D content that can change and adapt to the audience's position relative to its position. So not only is it a visual output, but it's also very physical. And actually, on that note, a caveat, it needn't be visual at all. It could be purely audible or purely physical haptics with other modes of output. Anyway, regardless of its form, it is responsive and it is dimensional. And curiosity leads to its discovery, curiosity that's entirely facilitated by the user. So your physical movement, your gaze, oral sounds, your position and orientation in relation to the content all engage your memory and your sense of play in a much more powerful and intuitive way than a linear screen experience might do. With XR, we're essentially creating these evolving sculptures, and being able to deploy digital sculptures in the world allows us to create a more natural imprint on a person's memory of the experience. And this is kind of got a lot to do with so many things, but they're a lot more attracted to explore this thing by their own curiosity. So with an XR piece, where rather than chasing the audience or broadcasting to them, we're asking the audience if they would like to engage with the content. Number 2, XR is location agnostic. So it's available to be deployed no matter where you are in the world, so long as you have an internet connection, maybe, and you know, a lot of them are based off an internet connection, and a device to view it with if it needs one. And there are very few other mediums that can deploy content into an audience's own environment, you know, regardless of where they are. And as I just mentioned, we're essentially creating these evolving sculptures now instead of something more linear like a film. Being able to deploy digital sculptures anywhere in the world provides experiences to a global audience. Previously, these types of experiences may have only been deployed in, say, like art galleries, business centers, and major cities. So now, you know, this type of content is available to wherever wherever there's internet. So, you know, XR can be very inclusive, democratic, and affordable to the consumer. Number 3, it's fun to create in sensorial dimensions. So the creators are creating for, you know, vision, for seeing, for hearing, physical movement, verbal input. The designer of an XR experience needs to be thinking not only about the obviously the visual style and look and feel and animation, but what is it like as a 3D concept? Remembering that, you know, typically the user can walk all around it. How is the dimensional composition working from all different viewpoints? What happens if a user is close to it or far away, tilted up or tilted down? Does that positioning stimulate or trigger a response from the content? What happens if you tap this part? Is there sound? You know, does the sound respond to the audience motion or proximity? Another big one is, you know, what is the arc of the experience? Are we still chasing that traditional beginning, middle, end of a story? Or is this more just about the curiosity and, you know, the investigation of this thing? You know, it doesn't have to have an end necessarily. And most importantly, a designer really needs to be thinking about what's the user going to take away as a memory from this investigation, sort of instigated on their own around this content. Number 4, you can be transported from your living room to roam around in the imagination of others. And I'm particularly thinking about VR and perhaps MR in this particular instance. But to have your vision and your hearing transported to another place that has alternate laws of physics, space, and time, this type of escapism is definitely unparalleled compared to anything I've sort of experienced. And by commanding the attention of your vision and sound, VR immediately takes control of your sense of place, horizon, balance, and, you know, it affects your emotions in pretty intense ways. It's really, really powerful, and even more so when you start to, like, you know, track eye gazing, or, you know, to remove like plastic controllers, which that, you know, there's a great video, maybe I'll include it in these slides, of where Facebook, you know, Oculus has got with their hand tracking right now is absolutely crazy. So sorry, what happens if you take away these plastic controllers and you're tracking the eye gaze and very dexterous hand movements, which you can simply operate in this world with your bare hands, you know, without any gaming controllers. And then, you know, if it weren't for the physicality of the hardware on your head, it would definitely feel like just an illusion or this sort of very tangible dream, which is very cool. So this extremely strong overtaking of senses and psychology that can be achieved so quickly with VR is definitely something I love about XR. Number 5, you can gather people from anywhere in the world during any pandemic without spreading the contagion. So virtual events are made possible with, or made better with XR, let's say. Virtual events held online are germ-free. And by hosting an event virtually, there is, you know, the potential for global distribution again. It's easier to access high quality speakers regardless of whether they live where the event is taking place or not. It's more cost effective and definitely more sustainable. Most physical events, you know, and conferences require renting out the event venue, paying for drinks and food and accommodation, subsidizing speakers, blah, 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 blah. With these virtual events, the costs are greatly reduced and very minimal, you know, no need for travel, makes them much more sustainable and eco-friendly. So these are real pluses. We've seen rapid advancements in web technology in recent years, you know, in WebGL, content personalization with machine learning, improved data security, 5G, the sort of birth of web AR and VR, and plenty more things. And so in tandem with the advancement of hardware, design and development, the web continues to sort of be this, you know, we're just seeing the beginnings of it being a very, very powerful source of, you know, very accessible events. Number 6, XR is a non-destructive layer of creativity to the physical world. A magical otherness, and it's using data. Data becomes a sixth sense. So I worked on a suite of AR effects, I think 2 years ago, for the Tate Gallery in London with Instagram. And the Tate, for anyone who doesn't know it, is sort of like a very one of the most prestigious art galleries in the world in London, and it has a lot of classic historical paintings in it, very famous ones. So one point of controversy that appeared at the outset of this this project, and also upon the audience receiving the experience or seeing it on social media, there was a lot of bit of outrage, is that we were having our way with these classical artworks, which is clearly beyond what was intended by the original artist. And how dare we? You know, as here we are, as though we're damaging these prestigious artworks by augmenting them. And to be honest, at the outset of the project, I had exactly the same feelings. But as I came to know and learn what it was our augmentation could provide to an audience's relationship to the artist, to the subject matter, to the work, and therefore a greater understanding of the artwork itself, I realized that to digitally augment a classic or anything, is just to perhaps to breathe new life into it, but also just to give another perspective on it, or another point of engagement. And the second thing that really strikes me always with AR in particular is that it is completely non-destructible, to the point where, like, if you're the audience, if you don't want the augmented version of it, you simply don't hold up your device to it. So it's, again, if the audience's curiosity is piqued, then they experience this, this digital sixth sense. But and it's all about this, and XR is all about invoking curiosity and not about the broadcast. It shouldn't be, I mean, this may change when actually, when, let's say, AR glasses are ubiquitous and everyone's just, my glasses are AR glasses, everyone's just walking around with AR glasses, but that would be another, that would be interesting, because then, it would be more about broadcasting and, getting spam ads in an augmented way. But at the moment, let's just say, there's a choice to not even experience it at all. So anyway, it's non-destructive, and it is really good at lending meaning to things in the physical world without being destructive to that thing. you can shift someone's psychological perceptions and behaviors, which opens up a world of possibilities for mental health treatments and training. But mainly my fascination here is with the psychology of all this, and I'm particularly thinking about VR here. So using VR tools and simulations, therapists and educators, teachers, scientists are now able to deliver extremely effective experiences and very novel approaches to therapy treatments, rebuilding and retraining cognitive functions, taking a completely new and very effective, approach to educational training and in a bunch of different industries, particularly in medical. It's really fascinating how effective VR training is. It's been shown also in studies that the embodiment of an avatar can entirely shift someone's empathy levels, be it for different genders, races, perspectives on any given situation, and it can even shift the perception of seeing another version of yourself, which is fascinating. I highly recommend you look up that experiment if that makes any sense. But imagine being able to confront yourself in VR, and it's quite incredible how differently you give the different perspective you're able to have on yourself, you viewing yourself as an other. Anyway, it's great. It's so good. Okay, and there's a song by Depeche Mode that has a line in it, and the line goes, "Try walking in my shoes, you'll stumble in my footsteps." And I think this is, very apt for this sort of, this empathy machine, let's call it. Through using VR, we can virtually walk in the shoes of somebody else. And so we may not only experience what it's like to be, in another location, unable to tell if the events around us are happening or real, the illusion of plausibility, but also that an avatar can substitute our own body. And we fall for it very quickly. If you've never experienced what it's like to be in VR in the avatar of something else, it changes the way you behave instantly. It's amazing. So instead of having to imagine, overcome all our human biases in the real world and having to imagine the world from the perspective of another person to gain empathy, VR allows us to place a person or a subject directly into the body of another. And studies show that perspective taking leads to rating yourself and another person to be more similar, of course, and to be a reliable method in reducing negative social stereotyping. All these sort of psychological studies in VR are super interesting, and I can't wait till they're a lot more common in therapy treatments and practice. Okay, number 8. Social AR platforms make creation tools for AR at the moment extremely accessible to all creators at any entry level. So companies like Facebook and Snapchat want more people to use their platforms, of course, and to continue audience growth alongside tech growth, they need content. And if you think of both those apps, Instagram and Snapchat, prior to the advent of, AR lenses, you'd remember that the whole origin of those apps was for users to upload photographs or snippets of videos to share with their friends and contacts. And AR began in these realms basically as additional photo filters. And Snap was also really successful at, incorporating voice changing effects as well in the sort of video messaging world. And to this day, a lot of social AR effects are there to enhance the user's content, user-generated content. So how do you get more AR content? Well, you make it easy for creators to use the medium, and that's exactly, what these platforms have done. It's really clear from the initial successes of Snap and Facebook that the globe is dripping with content creators. Everyone's a content creator. So they simply enable artists and creators with the right tools, and the creators will do the rest, which they have done and continue to do. So Snap Lens Studio and Facebook Spark AR Studio are both, they both are free software. They both offer free and pretty easy education materials for creators of all different levels to generate AR content. And even more powerful open creation software such as Unity and Unreal Engine offer free software and free tools and learning pathways for people who want to create in those engines too. And they definitely have a much higher learning curve to get over to get into that, but they're out there and they're free, and it's very possible to just jump in. Number 9, using real-time AR, clothing creation tools, and machine learning body tracking. One of the most unsustainable industries is hopefully transitioning to become way more environmentally friendly. And I'm talking about the fashion industry. Every year, the fashion industry uses 93 billion cubic meters of water, which is enough to meet the consumption needs of 5 million people. The fashion industry is responsible for 10% of annual global carbon emissions, which is more than all the international flights and maritime shipping combined. Which at this rate, the fashion industry's greenhouse gas emissions will surge by more than 50% by 2030. And if this demographic and lifestyle patterns continue as they are now, global consumption of apparel will rise from 62 million metric tons in 2019 to 102 million tons. These numbers in 10 years. These numbers are just crazy. And anyway, the list of fashion pollution stats go on. But what if instead of buying those fast fashion outfits for that one Instagram post, fashionistas could simply purchase digital items augmented perfectly to their bodies for that one Instagram post? In this instance, the creators get paid directly for their work. The consumer can wear and post about the garment as many times as they like, as many different angles as they like. They can trade their garment with others, driving exclusivity and further, high profit points to be created. And aside from the enormous positive impact of not having to fabricate the garment, the user also doesn't need to have to find any storage space in their wardrobe. And beyond these those fast fashion influences, just for regular folk who need clothing for regular purposes like warmth and coverage, imagine being able to try on clothes without having to queue for the fitting room. In fact, imagine not even having to go into the city centre to try on new clothes. You can try them on from the comfort of your home, your bedroom. You can get measured accurately by your camera, and your perfectly fitting garment that you've already tried on and checked it out can then be mailed to you. Number 10, in a similar vein to the one I was just talking about with fashion, very similar in fact, just on a broader scale, prototyping, XR allows us to prototype 3D concepts and place them in your own environment or 3D worlds being shared across headsets, and it's extremely location agnostic. It's a really immersive way to share furnishings, real estate walkthroughs, obviously game builds, animations, characters, artworks, car prototypes, anything that needs to be prototyped, dimensionalized, experienced, shared. So building prototypes and reviewing them virtually saves materials, saves build time, saves iterations, and of course the cost and pollution of travel. It's really effective for testing prototypes and getting a feel for functionality and ergonomics and experience and all these good things. And that's 10 things I love about XR. So in summary, number one, XR is physical. The audience has to get up and move around it to engage. Number two, it is location agnostic. I'll say it again. And it's able to be deployed globally. Number three, it's fun to create. Creating for more of the senses, not only receiving information, but supplying data that affects change on the content and the experience itself. Number four, it's the ultimate escape. You can be transported from your living room to roam around in the imagination of others. Number five, you can gather with people from anywhere in the world in the same virtual room. Number six, it's non-destructive. XR provides a digital layer of information to the physical world that might alter understanding of the physical world, but does not physically change it or, destroy it. Number seven, you can shift someone's psychological perceptions and behaviors, which opens up a world of possibilities for mental health treatments and training in both education and empathy, multitudes of things. Number eight, the tools to create in XR are accessible for all creators at any entry level. Number nine, we can transform unsustainable industries using real-time AR, and I'm taking fashion as an example, but this could be applied to so many industries. Clothing creation tools and body tracking. One of the most unsustainable industries can transition to become one that's actually, hopefully environmentally friendly. Number 10, XR is an extremely effective tool for prototyping. Building virtual prototypes and reviewing them virtually, again, saves materials, build time, iteration time, and the cost and pollution of travel. And that's 10 things I love about XR. Thank you so much for tuning in, and please get in touch on the chat if you want to chat XR. Thanks.